Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I hope you are well despite all things. An incredibly dangerous and scary time in the world, in the United States, after our president decided to unconstitutionally, without an imminent threat, launch us into an all-out, full-scale war with Iran. I've been doing breaking news segments over the weekend, which you can find under the videos tab on YouTube if you missed them, but I'm going to try to catch everyone up and give you the latest breaking news on what's happening now that we are at war. A couple of reminders. As I said, an unconstitutional initiation of a war with still very little justification, meaning attempts at justification. Not to mention when they try, it making any sense, which it hasn't. 3 American soldiers, heroes, are dead, to which Trump responded, "That's the way that it is." Dozens and dozens of civilians across numerous countries in the region are dead. A suspected terrorist attack in Austin, leaving 2 people dead and numerous injured severely. And again, it's suspected to be a terrorist attack in response to the war. We're waiting and begging. Now you have Pete Hegseth coming out and trying to give an explanation. It's been completely incoherent. Lots of lies about what's happening, distortions about the premise of all this. Khamenei dead, the supreme leader, which good. He was a horrible human being, but the regime's still in place. And we're going to talk about later, to my point about what is the plan here? What's going on? You have contradictory explanations, and now it's seeming like Trump might be saying all of this has to happen, but we're also going to leave the current regime in place. So then what was all of this chaos and devastation for? And again, American heroes' lives lost. 3 U.S. service members killed in Operation Epic Fury, 5 seriously wounded. Before I show you the interview that we're going to start with today that Trump did with Jake Tapper, where he breaks some scary news, just remember something that will not leave my head is this comment from Trump after announcing the American lives that were lost.
Fallen, and sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case.
That's the way it is, he says, which of course it didn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, but you keep having him like this. Trump telling the New York Times that Pentagon projections show U.S. casualties in Iran could be quite a bit higher than the 3 troops killed, telling us not just, we can't really give you the plan, which was actually almost explicitly what members of Congress who support Trump and Pete Hegseth have been saying, but we have a plan and trust us, trust Trump. But more American lives are going to have to be lost, not to mention all the civilians that will have their lives taken, and saying, but trust us. Well, we don't. We really, really don't. Just the quickest pause for the video amid all of this chaos. If you do appreciate these updates, please click the subscribe button, click the like button. Both of those are completely free, but subscribe is the most important to support what we do. Back to the video. And then here's CNN reporting on what Mediaite called a bomb or blockbuster Iran report from Jake Tapper.
Ambassador, can you just stick with me real quick? We've got my colleague and anchor Jake Tapper on the line. He just spoke with President Trump. Jake, what can you tell us?
Hey there. So I just got off the phone with President Trump. It was a 9-minute phone interview, and we talked just about the war in Iran. I'm going to share some of it with you right now. The president said, quote, "We're knocking the crap out of them. I think it's going very well. It's very powerful. They've got the greatest military in the world, and we're using it." I asked the president how long he thought this military operation or war might last. He said, quote, "I don't want to see it go on too long. I always thought it would be 4 weeks, and we're a little ahead of schedule." I asked the president if the U.S. was doing more than these military strikes to help the Iranian people regain control of Iran against the regime, to seize the country from the Iranian regime. And he said, yes, the president said, yes, we are indeed. But right now we want everyone staying inside. It's not safe out there. And then the president said, it's about to get even less safe. He said, quote, "We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon. We asked him about.
So that's the blockbuster part of it, which is him saying the big attack hasn't even started yet. Now, let me explain again before going further. When I talk about this contradiction of, number one, some defenders of Trump and kind of those you think might be speaking on his behalf will say, we're not going to put troops on the ground. This isn't going to be a ground invasion that could lead to even more American casualties, which then leads to what reportedly Trump is indicating, like here, Trump admitting, Micah says, to his plan in Iran being keeping the Islamic regime in power, what we did in Venezuela, which was leaving the regime and then just coordinating with them. So if we're not sending troops, which would actually be the way that you would, over a long period of time, initiate a comprehensive regime change that would pull us into the very type of prolonged war that everyone is saying, even members of the Trump administration, that we cannot afford and that would be devastating. But they're saying we're not going to do that. But then also, if not that, then what are we doing? Because we know it's not because of an imminent threat. So then you're kind of alluding to, like Trump said in that interview, it is regime change. But that brings me back to the other point, which is, well, then you would have to do the very thing you're saying we're not going to do, which is a bunch of boots on the ground. And I don't think they know. I really don't think they know. We're going to talk about later Anna Paulina Luna saying, don't worry, it's going to plan. Can't tell you what the plan is, but it's going to plan. Then here's Bret Baier, who also spoke to Trump. And I just saw Trump came out as we hit go live to do a speech. I have a couple clips of that we'll look at throughout today's show. But other than that, a speech where maybe he'll take questions, I don't know yet. He has been so limited in his engagements with the press, which is unlike him. And I think gives you a sense of how timid he feels about defending his decisions here.
Of where they thought they would be. I want to read some of these quotes that I asked him and how he answered. He said that as far as a plan, they do have a plan, always had a plan, the intent of where they thought they would be.
Yeah, we got a plan. We got a plan. We have a plan. Oh, what's the plan? Can't tell you that.
The military operation, he said there is no greater military in the U.S., and he was praising General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, for the news conference that he just watched. Cut and dry, as he said, central casting, and they have a job to do, and they're getting it done.
Central casting. We're going to look at clips from that press conference of General Kane and Pete Hegseth. But for Trump to even reference like, oh, they looked so like they were in a movie. They looked like they were right out of Hollywood generals. Shows you where his head's at. And I'm going to say this again. We've learned this in the wars of the past and the administrations choosing to engage in those wars and then kind of gaslighting people into supporting them. Don't fall for the, if you don't want to risk American soldiers' lives, if you don't want a prolonged, devastating, potentially causing ripple effects that are even more dangerous for the United States in the long run, that means you don't support the military, right? Don't let them link those two things. It doesn't make any sense. Actually, I think if you support the military and you care about the lives involved, you would be very cautious about such military interventions. I myself have family members who could get pulled into this because of their participation in the military. And my love for them informs my opposition to this. When they try to pair those, if you're patriotic and you love the military and you think it's powerful, then of course you would support this, is completely incoherent. Then you have this.
He said there is a plan. He points to Venezuela as a template, which means to me that going in, they had some sense on the ground of what was coming next.
So if you're pointing to Venezuela, as Bret Baier put it, as a template, then as Norman put it, oh, I see now, knock off the leader, leave another autocrat in place to torture the population and steal their oil. They're contradicting themselves constantly. Because on one front, they say, oh, no, we're just knocking out an imminent threat, okay? They were advancing a nuclear program, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and we just had to knock that out so they can't threaten us. Oh, wait, then we learned that's a complete lie, and there was no threat. Okay, So then, if you challenge them on that, they either just keep going with that lie or they go, but look at how horrible this regime is. And you go, okay, I agree, horrible regime. Even by your logic, are you not, by referencing Venezuela, just saying that while the top leader was taken out and a bunch of the other top leaders, the underlying regime will still stay in place? Because otherwise, you're talking about a much longer term operation, as I'll continue to repeat. You see why there's no reason to trust the Trump administration when their explanations are contradicting themselves. And then you have Leslie Marshall saying Venezuela has the same regime it had when Maduro was in office. 78.6% live in poverty. 7.9 million require humanitarian assistance to meet their basic needs. 40% of the population experiences moderate to severe food insecurity. The public health system has largely collapsed. And that is where, according to Trump, his operation there ended, was with the Maduro capture. Is that what we're talking about here? Because then once again, you don't seem to be staying consistent with yourself. I referenced that a mass shooting that happened very close to us here in Austin, Texas, is suspected to be a terrorist attack linked to this war.
Into that mass shooting in Austin, Texas, with some brand new information. I had mentioned before, 3 people killed. Fox confirmed the shooter who police killed was a naturalized citizen from Senegal. Sources are now telling Fox the shooter was wearing clothing that said Allah on it, and he had on an undershirt with an Iranian flag on it. The FBI has just announced they are investigating this as a possible act of terrorism. They said maybe, probably, could be. They're investigating it as such now, a possible act of terrorism. We will update you with any.
And then you think, this is one of the, as horrific as this is, and it's so horrific, it would have been something that you're planning for and expecting when you launch this war. And then does it calm me at all that the person at the top of the FBI is Kash Patel, who's supposed to domestically be keeping us safe? So you have Pete Hegseth and Trump, who have our brothers and our sisters and our family members' lives in their hands right now for some indiscernible reason that they're arguing it's necessary. And then domestically, domestic backlash, terrorist attacks, we're supposed to be protected by Kash Patel's FBI. Does not make me feel much better. You then have this news as well.
Kuwait's Ministry of Defense says several U.S. military aircraft crashed on Monday. They have said that all crew have survived. This video appears to show a pilot parachuting to the ground after a fighter jet crashed near a U.S. base in the area. CNN has reached out to U.S. Central Command for comment. CENTCOM has said that its strikes on Iran continue. U.S. President.
And this looked like it was an example of Kuwait's air defenses, sort of friendly fire on U.S. jets. Luckily, sounds like the pilots survived and ejected, but just chaos, so much chaos. So now we get to what Trump called the central casting press conference from General Raisin Kane and Pete Hegseth, where wasn't very insightful, I have to be honest.
Harry Hegseth, thank you. Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. 2 questions for you. The president said yesterday in his video message that we will leave Iran when we complete all of our objectives. What are our objectives? And can you share more information on how the soldiers who were killed were killed?
Well, I laid out the objectives, as did the chairman. They're completely nested. I mean, Iran has an ability to project power against us and our allies in ways that we can't tolerate. So whether that's ballistic missiles and drones, so offensive capabilities, effectively their Navy, which would attempt to set other terms and impose different costs, drone capabilities, which we laid out there, and ultimately
this is a word salad. What? Their Navy, different costs and different capabilities. You're just saying random mumbo jumbo, aren't you?
Ultimately, though, this tying it back to Midnight Hammer, the president has been willing to make a deal. You can't have a nuclear bomb. Radical Islamists can't have a nuclear bomb that they wield against the world. He gave them every single opportunity. Then we precisely took it away. And even then, after that, they didn't have that. They didn't come to the table with a willingness to give it away. So ultimately...
Wait. What? They didn't have that and they weren't willing to give away the thing they didn't have? You just said you took it. Whoa. You took it out, but now they won't give away the thing that you took away. That doesn't make sense, Pete. Are you drunk?
Those nuclear ambitions, which never ceased, are something that had to be addressed as well. So that's a discrete sense of what's being addressed here to ensure that they can't use that conventional umbrella to continue a pursuit of nuclear ambition.
How do you bomb their ambitions towards a nuclear weapon? You just said that they wouldn't give up their ambitions, but the program we know was not even anywhere close to being any conception of a maybe possible threat. So that couldn't have been it, but you think that you're going to bomb your way to them not having a nuclear weapon. But then you leave the regime in place. And do you think the lesson they just learned was that they shouldn't try to attain something that would be sort of a threat against anyone attacking them again? Like, I feel like this is going to fuel more ambitions to have the most powerful weapons possible, as opposed to the reverse. Wait, what was the thing that Trump got out of that even set up this scenario in the first place? Oh yeah, that nuclear agreement that didn't require us bombing their ambitions, whatever that means.
Ambitions. And then as it pertains to the U.S. casualties, that particular incident was, you have air defenses and the lot's coming in and you hit most of it. And we absolutely do. We have incredible air defenders. Every once in a while, you might have one, unfortunately, we call it a squirter that makes its way through. And in that particular case, it happened to hit a tactical operation.
Just none of this makes me feel good at all. Call a squirter, gets through. Occasionally that happens, but we have good air defense. It's just a level of detachment from the emotion of this that disturbs me. And once again, in a moment like this where the press is supposed to be asking you challenging questions, of course, Pete Hegseth lashes out at NBC for asking a very obvious question.
Ability that we have over there.
I heard the question about 4 weeks. It's the typical NBC sort of gotcha type question. President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve. And what he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do, well, I mean, Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing, is to look for opportunities and off.
I do remember Biden ending a war and not starting one, but okay.
Ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does, because there's no better communicator than our president.
Well, if you thought he was trustworthy before that, now you have him saying Trump's a better communicator than anyone before. I think that can sum up the credibility of Pete Hegseth there. And again, let me see, did this post quote what he was saying there? Typical NBC sort of gotcha type question. President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may take or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It can move up. It can move back. We're going to execute his command, the objectives we set out to achieve. What he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do. Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing, is to look for opportunities and off-ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does, because what do any of those words mean together? I know what they mean individually, but he said he has the opportunity to look for off-ramps and escalations, and then he can look for opportunities within the context of an off-ramp to then flip around into an escalation. He's just saying stuff. I promise if they had such a coherent plan, they'd be able to explain it better.
I have concepts of a plan.
Yeah, no joke.